All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining Toadstool Bookshop here and hosting Sy Montgomery and presenting her two Good Creature books. Sy Montgomery has scuba dived with octopuses in the Pacific, swum with piranhas, electric eels, and dolphins in the Amazon. Worked in a pit crawling with 18,000 snakes. That sounds terrifying. In Manitoba, sorry, and handled a wild tarantula in French Guiana, all to research 30 books. She is a National Book Award finalist and has also been honored with a Sybert Medal. She lives in Hancock, New Hampshire with her husband, Howard Mansfield, and their border collie, Thurber. Visit her online at symontgomery.com and on her Twitter at Sy the Author. And go ahead.
Well, thank you, Elise. Gosh, this is so much fun getting to see everybody, and I'm looking at dogs and cats and faces of people that I wish so much we were face to face, but it's really lovely to see all your faces. And I'm thrilled to talk to you about how to be a good creature and becoming a good creature, because this was kind of I've written adult books and children's books similar to it before, but this is different. This was totally different. These were two books that I never intended to write. It was so not my idea. And I want to tell you how this came about, and how grateful I am to my editor, Kate O'Sullivan, to the artist, Rebecca Green, and to all the animals who have been my teachers since I was a little girl. I had no idea, of course, when I wrote the second book, the one for young children, that it would come out during a time that all these kids would not be able to go to school. But you know what, I'm going to go to share screen and just share some images with you while I talk. I hope this works. Does that work? Are people seeing this? I think they are. Oh yeah, boy, I'm so technologically advanced right now. I had no idea that during this COVID-19 time, when kids couldn't come to school, the very first page of the book, oh, I think I'm getting ahead of myself because I don't know how to advance. Wait, advance. Would say school is not the only place to find a teacher. It was kind of amazing that this happened. But this is the thing that has happened with both of these books. It has been a confluence of miracles. And both of the books affirm the saying that has kind of run my life. And that is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Some of you have heard me say that before. And it almost sounds like a riddle or a koan, but it really is naming a miracle that I have found just happens when you need the teacher to help you find your family, to help you be brave, to help you learn your path in life, to help you learn how to forgive someone. No matter what the challenge, I've been so lucky to be able to look around and there is someone who's going to help me. But that someone is sometimes a person, sometimes an actual teacher in the classroom, but more often than not, it is somebody not with 2 legs, but with 4, or with 6, or with 8, or with 8 arms, or with no arms or legs at all. So let's see. I've been so lucky to have friends like this helping me through life. It's been my honor to meet animals like this tapir, for example, whose name, by the way, is Sy Montgomery, both first and last. And I have never seen a Sy Montgomery more elegant in her swimwear, which she's modeling right here. I'm so honored to have a beautiful creature like this bearing my name. I also had an octopus named after me. This is not that octopus. This is a different one, Pacific, in the Pacific Northwest. But all of these creatures have affirmed to me that sometimes the best teachers are those that you're not expecting to meet, but when you need them, they're right there. So that's kind of the meat of how to be a good creature. This book started right after Soul of an Octopus came out, and my friend Vicki Croak, whose work you may know, she's a wonderful person. She's in the Boston area, and her last big bestseller was Elephant Company. Well, she also had a, I guess it's called a TV show now, some kind of show. She also had a radio show, and she came to video me at our house here in Hancock. And she asked me all about these wonderful animals that I'd known, and we shared all kinds of natural history facts. And at the very end of the interview, she asked me, so what have these teachers taught you about how to live your life? What have you learned from these animals? Not about natural history, not about science or the way the world works, but about how to live. And my answer was how to be a good creature. That's what they have shown me, every single one of them. Because every one of these creatures has almost by definition been good. They are a perfect expression of their species, a perfect expression of animate creation. And each one of these animals, in the words of Henry Beston, are living by voices we cannot hear. They're employing senses that we've lost or never attained. They have another kind of perfection, another expression of life that we can touch when we get to know them. So, even animals that people are sometimes scared of have a powerful lesson to teach us. So it's animals that have led me all around the world, from places like this cloud forest in Papua New Guinea, to here I am in a shark cage, diving with great white sharks. You never know where you're going to meet your next teacher. Sometimes your teacher might be a big fat pig. I love telling kids that. Well, some of you may have read, and some of you are actually in, such as Beth, in my book, The Good Pig. And that was a memoir that I did not expect to write. But when Christopher Hogwood died at age 14 in his sleep of old age, I then knew I had to write this book in his honor. I didn't expect to put much of me in it, but my editor at Random House said, no, you got to put some of your life in there too. And I'm like, no, there's an interesting pig. Why should you put the boring person in? And she said, no, for his greatness to shine, he will need like the setting, like a setting for a ring of your life. So I wrote this memoir. And then I thought, I'm done with memoir. And years went by and books went by. And then my editor at Houghton Mifflin happened to see the video that Vicki and her partner had taken of my interview, which I concluded by saying what animals have taught me in my life about my life is how to be a good creature. It was then that Kate O'Sullivan said, that's your next book. You have to write this book. You have to write this book. I originally envisioned it as a book for young adults. But the marketing people said, no, this is for full adults. So that was it was a hard book to write. Some of you I know have read it. And in that book, I talk about, among other things, how I was saved by various animals, including my dog. Let me see if she's going to be here. Oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Christopher Hogwood happened to save me at a point when my own parents divorced me. They wrote me out of the will. They disowned me for marrying Howard because they didn't want me to marry Howard, which was really crazy because he's the best person ever in the world. And having your parents cut you off is a very hard thing. I'd worshipped my father. I admired my mother. But Christopher Hogwood taught me that you make your own family. And that's something that I could write about in the adult book and also in the children's book. Now, there's some things that were in the adult book that I could not put in the children's book, and I'm going to talk about that too. But many of the things that I wrote about in the adult book, children have to deal with as well. Now, we adults think that we live in such a complex world, and we have all these difficult decisions to make, and there's a great deal of pressure on us, and sometimes that is really very true. But children have complex worlds too, and they have so much more to learn. They are learning, for example, language. They have to learn also how to find a good teacher. They have to learn what family really is. They have to learn that a family is really made out of love and not just made out of a marriage certificate or a birth certificate. That a family can include all kinds of different species. And for me, my family included chickens and a dog and a 750-pound pig with a curly tail. So another important lesson that animals taught me that I go into in the adult book and treat a little differently in the children's book was learning to forgive. Now, I just told you about how my parents disowned me, which hurt me deeply, but I still loved them. Well, it was a weasel who helped me completely forgive my mother for all the difficulty that I'd had with her my entire life. Now, I didn't go into my mother in the children's book, but I did go into how when on a Christmas morning I went out to feed my chickens, I found an ermine in the coop, and they eat chickens. Well, in real life, that Christmas morning, that ermine had killed one of our hens, someone who I had raised from a tiny chick, still egg-shaped, and who I loved dearly. But when I looked in the face of that beautiful white weasel, that ermine, I could not be angry. I instantly forgave any anger I might have had. And that was such a powerful wave of forgiveness. I think that it just blasted through everything in my life and went all the way back to my mother from when I was a little kid. That was the power of forgiveness, and that was the power of that ermine. Now, this is a tree kangaroo. And tree kangaroos, you might remember from the first book, helped me come back to life, essentially. Now, in the adult book, there's a chapter about how I came close to suicide. I was so depressed. Everybody, it seemed, Christopher had died, Tess had died. I was so depressed, I just could not look forward to next week or next year or Easter or Christmas. Nothing in the future held anything for me. And I vowed that if I still felt this way after I discharged a number of duties that I'd promised to complete, one of which was to write The Good, Good Pig, I had the means, and I was just gonna, be done with it. Well, one of the other things I had to finish before I could off myself was I promised to write this book about my friend Lisa Daybeck, who studied these beautiful, alarming tree kangaroos. Now, tree kangaroos are actually real kangaroos who really live in the trees. They really are this incredibly, they're even more beautiful than this captive female named Holly. They have like orange fur, and the part that's white on Holly is actually yellow. They live like 30 feet up in the trees, and they eat orchids. Unbelievable animals. It sounds like something that Dr. Seuss came up with while he was eating magic mushrooms or something. They're amazing beings. And I went to Papua New Guinea to write this book about my friend's work. And as soon as I had that book done, I felt like, okay, you know what? If I still feel terrible, I'm out of here. But you look into the face of someone like this, and you want to come back to life. You fall back in love with life. And I think that's one of the most important chapters in the adult book, because as adults, so many of us face despair. And so many of us, when we're in the throes of depression, you think there's no way out. And that was a chapter that I wrote, reaching out to those of us who have felt that terrible depression, to tell them the world is still waiting for you. It will be waiting for you. All you have to do is just keep on keeping on. And this beautiful world will rescue you. Your teachers will find you. And I found mine. And of course, I start the book with the true story of my older sister. One reason that I wrote both books was to say thank you to these teachers. And Molly, whose picture I keep on my desk, was my very first teacher before I was old enough to go to school. Here's the way Becca starts this book, with the little girl running after the dog Molly. Now, when I did the book for adults, I had very specifically asked Becca not to do any pictures, any artwork of people. You'll notice that book has not one single image of the Sy character or any other person. There's hands in there, but there's no people. The children's book, I forgot to ask her not to put people in. I forgot to ask her not to show that little girl. Now, interestingly, I know the reason why I did that. I mean, ostensibly, it was that I wanted to concentrate on the people, but there's another reason. And since you are all my friends, I'm going to tell you it. The little girl who I was as a child was someone who annoyed my mother badly enough that she shook and choked me, which I reveal in the first book. And I didn't want to see that little girl. That little girl made my mother mad. She had to be bad. But I forgot to tell Becca not to put it in. So she did put it in. And because she did put in pictures of that little girl, I now can go through that book and care for that little girl. Because that little girl is the one bringing all these young children into these pages to introduce them to the teachers who showed me everything I needed to love this life and love this world. And while I'm not yet a good creature, at least I know what one looks like. And I know the lessons that they have to teach us are ones that young or old you need. It was gorillas who teach a great lesson of how to respect others. And I learned this in Africa. The first time I went to Africa, it was to visit mountain gorillas. And we went to a new area where the mountain gorillas were not yet habituated to tourists. And we were thrashing around through the forest, all strung out, and I looked and I saw this guy running towards me in the forest. And I thought, this can't be good. And then I saw why he was running, because a gorilla was running after him, chasing him. But I knew what to do. I knew what to do because I had been to Rwanda right before that, and I know what gorilla etiquette calls for. You don't stare into the face of a gorilla. Instead, you look down, you bow down almost before a king, and show them that you understand that they're the boss, that you're the visitor, they're the host, that you're the student, and they're the teacher. And that gorilla then stood up, pocked his chest, dropped his jaw, let out a horrifying roar, and then turned and led us to meet his family. And the key to that was respect. Respect others. And it's something that we all need to learn. Animals also taught me not to be afraid. Most animals don't want to hurt you. And if you don't bother them, they're not going to bother you. An example of that, by the way, is the cassowary. It's a bird that stands as tall as a man. And in New Guinea, they do kill a number of people, but that's because people are trying to eat them or take their babies. But this also offered a lesson that was appropriate for children about how we need to learn to wait patiently. And animals that are not in my adult book make an appearance in the children's book, because in some cases I hadn't met them in the adult book, and in other cases it's something that I felt that young people needed to have pointed out to them. And one of the things that I really want kids to realize is that just because you hear someone say something doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And hyenas are a great example. Hyenas, everyone says they're like horrible, filthy predators, and they're mainly scavengers, and they steal stuff from lions. Totally not true. When I met hyenas for the first time, when I was in Masai Mara in Kenya, I was just floored at how clean and fluffy and sweet and lovely they were. And I learned that hyenas, although they will scavenge, they are primarily predators. And guess who steals most carcasses from whom? It's not the hyenas stealing from the lions. It's the lions stealing from the hyenas. So another good lesson for kids. And some of you are in my book, Soul of an Octopus. And Octavia keeps reappearing in so many things that I write. There's a chapter on her in the adult book and in the children's book. And the lesson that Octavia brings to children is one that I think we really, in America, need to review today. And that is, we can be good friends with those who are unlike us. Who could be more unlike us than somebody with 8 arms who tastes with their skin, who's got 3 hearts and a brain that coils around their neck and can change color and shape and jet through the sea? Well, an octopus is separated from a human being by 500 million years of evolution. And yet, Octavia, as well as the other octopuses that I came to know at New England Aquarium, showed me that we could still be friends. We could find common ground. And I think a lot of Americans are having trouble finding common ground right now. So it's a good time for children to review that lesson. Now, he's right here. His snout is right here. In both books, I end the book with my latest teacher, Thurber. And Thurber came into my life at another dark time of great sadness. I'd lost our dog, Sally. Many of you knew her. And I was so afraid I was going to go into another depression like I did when I lost Tess and Christopher. And the way that Becca handled this sensitively in her artwork without having to tell the children that a dog had died, I think was absolutely brilliant. But what Thurber told me, showed me, is again something that with COVID-19, with, you know, the entire continent's on fire, with our politics just also on fire with incredible rancor, that the likes of which I haven't seen in my lifetime, that we can trust tomorrow, that there are good times ahead, and that there's always going to be a teacher right around the corner, and that even in the darkest times, you can believe in hope. So I want to say a couple of words just about the artwork in this book. When we did the first book, Becca and I didn't know each other, and we did not collaborate. I sent her photographs of stuff, but pretty much the editor, Cade, didn't let us speak to each other. I think the reason for that is that editors, it's pretty common in publishing. I think editors are afraid that the author is going to just run over their creativity and wreck everything. So I never spoke to her. I had not even emailed her until I met her on the book tour. I thought that Becca was already going to be in Japan. And lo and behold, I met her on the first stop on the book tour. We loved each other. We ran off to the zoo together and had a wonderful time. For the second book, our collaboration was very intimate because she knew my whole story in detail. And for this children's book, when you're doing a picture book, there's a lot that you don't say that the pictures get to say. They show while the author tells. And often it's better to show than to tell. So, for instance, with the beginning of the book, when she shows the little girl running after the dog, her teacher, look how she ends the book. With the adult Sy running after another dog, still her teacher. And the way, as I mentioned earlier, that she handled the sadness in the last chapter here, which is called Trust Tomorrow. We didn't have to tell the young children that my pig died or that my dog died. They didn't need to go through that sorrow. I tell them that the little girls who I had loved moved away. I tell them our pig grew old, our dog grew old. It felt like everything was ending. Well, how does she show that? She showed it, again, by echoing something in the beginning. In the beginning, right after you have the Sy character running after Molly, you see this picture. And here's the Sy character, the little girl looking out the window, and look at all these animals all around. Well, at the end, when the Sy character is feeling sad, like everything is ending, what does she show? She shows the character again looking out the window. But now what does she see? She sees falling leaves, things leaving, things seeming to die. And she conveys that sadness in that way to the children. But then the great news is, here comes Thurber. And that even when life gives you sadness, there's going to be another teacher right around the corner. So working with Becca was just such a wonderful experience for both of these books. I was thrilled that we had a beautiful trailer made for the book. I don't know if any of you have seen it. If you just go online and type in trailer for Becoming a Good Creature, it'll come up. It's got Thurber in it. It's got a wonderful tarantula named Bonita. My friend's chicken Spotty is in it, who right after this I have to go let the chickens in because I see it's dark out. One of the lovely things about that trailer is that they animated the cover of this book. And in the animation, the little girl, Sy, is petting Molly. And in this way, I get to pet Molly again. So these books that I didn't want to write because they were memoirs and I thought I was done with memoir have worked out to be such a huge blessing for me. A blessing at an incredible time in history when we're going through so much trouble. It's so good to be reminded by these animals how to be a good creature. So I'm happy to take questions from people, or you can ask them, or you can type them. I'm going to go back onto this screen. And then after that, I have to let some chickens in.
It's not really a question about the book. I just wanted to say I read your book, The Good Pig, a while ago. Like in like ninth grade, and now I'm in my college dorm. But that's like when I truly got to like know your work, and I just wanted to say that like I love your writing and your books so much, and you really are like such an inspiration, and because I'm really passionate about animals too, and I think that like if I can play with an animal, then I will. And it's really nice being in North Carolina, or sorry, with so many different like wild animals, like chickens and stuff that I didn't have access to back at home. But it's just, I think you're really, really cool, and like it's remarkable. And I really, really, really want to just kind of have the life that you did as an adult. And I just wanted to say that, and I was super psyched to be able to see the opportunity to join your Zoom, and I'm really excited to read all the rest of your books.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. That is great. What are you studying?
Psychology.
That was one of my majors.
Really?
Yeah, it totally was.
Wow.
I had 3 majors: psychology, French language and literature, and magazine journalism.
Yeah.
And psychology was, I mean, right now, psychology is so much more interesting than it was then, because we didn't even have animal psychology then.
I love it. It was
Oh,
either,
it must be
psychology or
fascinating.
English. But no, like I'm really, really happy to be
Oh
here.
gosh. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, be in touch, okay? Do you know how to get in touch with me?
Yeah, I actually, it's funny. I think
You
I wrote you
emailed
an
me.
email. Oh my gosh, I can't. Oh wow, I can't believe you remembered. Yes,
You
I
did.
wrote. Yeah, like I can't believe you remember that. Yeah, I wrote you an email like a while ago. Wow, that's remarkable.
So I haven't changed my email, so stay in touch.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Any other questions from folks, or? It's so funny. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing like Grover right now from Sesame Street.
Yeah, but occasionally I was seeing a beaker as well.
Oh, is that Beaker?
I think so. But if anybody has any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask them, or just type in the chat room and we can dictate them for Sy if you want it more comfortable doing that.
Well, I may have just talked everyone's ears off so they're sick of me.
Well, I just would love to say thank you so much. That was so wonderful. And you're so authentic, and so much of what I've read in your books just was right here tonight. I'm so glad I came.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much. That's great. I'm so glad.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
Well, God bless you.
It looks like Lois Carfunkel is asking, what is the recommended age for your new book? Her grandchild is a little over 1 year old and enjoys books, including ripping them, eating them, and having daddy read to her.
Ah, great. I think it's like 4 to 7. Let me just read you a couple of pages and you'll be able to tell, okay? So I'll read you, some are very short. Okay, here's Don't Be Afraid. In India, I met tigers. In Africa, lions. In the rivers of South America, I swam with piranhas and electric eels. In the ocean, I met sharks. None of them ever hurt me. And then there's a little longer chapter after that, and this is the Wait Patiently. I traveled to Australia again, this time to meet a different bird. The cassowary, like the emu, is a tall bird who runs instead of flies. I was eager to meet one and spent a week trekking through their rainforest home. No cassowary. An hour before I had to leave, I went one more time to say goodbye to the beautiful empty jungle. A cassowary stepped out from the trees before me. He was close enough for me to see his eyelashes. I was so glad I had waited. So that's the language. I think most little kids can understand those words, and they certainly can relate to the pictures. The pictures are so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I just love her art. It's like magic.
Will you make a recording of you reading that so that, like, is that available in any way? Because the way you read it is magical.
Oh, you're so sweet. I should come to your house and just read it to you.
Oh, you could. I live right down the road from you. You are welcome anytime. Pigs and animals, free of charge.
I'd love to. Well, the way these things work, I would do it in a minute, you know, and I did record How to Be a Good Creature. And I also recorded Soul of an Octopus.
Yeah.
Good Pig was, I offered to do it, but they had an actress do it. And it's like not up to me. What has to happen is, because I own the copyright, but the publisher kind of owns the rights. And so they have to have a bid from some recording company. But I don't even know if picture books have recording. But, oh, you know what? I read it. Let me find out for you. I did read it for the publicist who shared it with a bunch of schools. And I don't own the rights to that recording, but I can try and find out if I can send it to you if you want.
Oh, I would love that.
Okay, do I have your email?
I will make sure to put it in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. My email for everybody, I mean, everybody knows me anyway, but my email is sy@symontgomery.com. So anybody who's here can email me anytime they want. So that's great, and I'll find out whether I can send you that. And what's fun was when I did the reading, Thurber was right there with me. And, you know, chapter 1, he's over here. Then chapter 2, he's over here. And then chapter 3, his head is over here. It was so cute.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Julie, and I don't know you. I'm from way far away.
Where are you from?
I'm from a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
But I have a friend who lives in Peterborough, and so I get the Toadstool emails all the time. And ironically, I'm a school librarian. Ironically, I talked about octopus scientists with my 5th graders yesterday, and then I got the email. So, and Soul of an Octopus is one of my favorites. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing about yourself today.
Wow. Well, that's super. Well, one of the people in the book is on this Zoom right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you know Marion?
No, Marion. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
Marion,
from the book.
who was the snake tamer. She's on our Zoom right now.
Good to see you.
So this is a riot. And Beth Delos, who is a character in The Good Pig, is on our Zoom right now.
I was in it for just a second because you said I was going to marry him, and I did.
Yeah, well, hey, there you go. And that was a very good idea. The best snake wedding anyone ever went to, right?
Just to go through the
Can
chat.
I ask you a question? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oops.
I can hear you.
There we go. You can?
Yes,
This is Beth.
I know.
Oh, I'm not used to Zooming, sorry. Okay. I want to know how to deal with the horrible feelings, sad feelings I get when I hear about forest fires and floods. Of course, I feel them for people, but the animals, I lay there in bed and I can't sleep. And is there anything that you can tell me that would comfort me, or is it just all tragic?
It is really so horrible. I mean, I'm so glad that you have a Newfie,
Yeah.
to comfort you. I think when our beautiful world is on fire and doesn't have to be, none of this has to be happening. There are tragedies in the world that just happen. You can't do anything about. This was something that totally did not have to happen.
Mhm.
All of this climate disruption did not have to happen. I remember 30 and 40 years ago when we were being warned about this. And we've been given 40 years of warnings of what to do. We know what to do, and we haven't taken action.
Right.
But we're alive right now, having an opportunity to try to change things and feeling like you're doing something to change that, to put the world back together. Whether that is, at the ballot box, or what you eat, or adopting, as you do, giant, elderly, wonderful dogs. I have been, what I've been working on lately is I'm doing a turtle book, and I work once a week with a turtle rescue league. And we get these turtles who've been hit by cars and their shells are shattered. And you would not believe it, but you can put these broken turtles back together and they can live another 75, 80 years.
Wow.
And so, it's one turtle, but that's somebody who could live another 80 years and is gonna, lay 30 eggs every other year, maybe, in the case of a snapper, for example. Anything that we do to heal the world, big or small, with the choices that we make in our daily lives. I mean, Beth, I know that you have put pieces of this world back together by the lives that you have given back to dogs who deserved to have those lives be happy and who wouldn't have had any kind of life if it wasn't for you. You're putting the world back together.
Sweet.
In Judaism, they call this tikkun, and it says that, I mean, I'm probably misrepresenting this or telling the story wrong, but it's sort of like, at the creation, something went wrong, pieces of the world broke off, and it is our job to be in the world, to heal the world, to put it back together. And that's a great way to spend a life. And one of my very good friends, one of Marion's dear friends, Scott Dowd, who has worked for many years at the New England Aquarium, who has unfortunately lost his job because they had to fire all of these people. When he saw what was going on in the Amazon, that the whole Amazon was I mean, even before the Amazon was on fire, so many species were disappearing, and it was being paved over, and there was logging, and there was mining, and drugs were coming in, and it was just a big mess. And he saw a way that he could contribute by this Project Piaba. I actually wrote a book about it. And he realized, it's going to take a lifetime to turn this around. But then he said, a lifetime. I've got one of those. And that's what we have. And I am grateful to be alive now at a time that I can use my life. And you can use your glorious, precious life to try to put the world back together. And this is a challenging time to do it, but that's when we're needed.
Right.
And I'm glad I'm needed, and I'm glad I have a noble use for my life, and we all do.
Mhm. Thank you.
So I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. Thank you for all you do for the animals.
Thank you for all you do, Beth.
Okay. Going through the chat, there's a few comments. Karen Johnson wants to say thank you, Sy. This was wonderful.
Karen, thank you.
Kim Cunningham says
Yay,
thank you, Sy.
Kim.
I loved it. Kathy is saying you pretty much already answered my question about what I have taught you about dealing with loss. Jennifer is saying, oh, it just skipped on me. Hang on. Jennifer is saying, thank you for this uplifting idea to share with my fourth graders. We are always practicing how to be kind. Now it will be good creatures.
Oh, great.
And somebody is asking if this video will be available later, and yes, it will. Toadstool will be posting it to our YouTube channel and to Facebook later on, probably tomorrow, but it will be available for people to view at a later time.
Oh, great.
Richard Benz says, thank you, Sy. Your books bring the world of animals to the hearts of all of us. Ellen Hackett, thank you so much for this talk. I feel like we are in a room together rather than all over the place. Sy, because of your books, do you get offered unwanted pets and animals a lot?
Jeez. Well, my husband is the gatekeeper. We did get a lot of unwanted pets at one time, but I travel so much that I can't, I can't just dump them all on Howard. And so now we're down to just Thurber. Although, boy, I mean, Howard knows that I would love to fill the house up with animals.
Lois Carfunkel is saying, we live in a nation today where empathy is not being taught by our leaders. Are there animals in your book that teach children these feelings? As I recall, the organization Heart, which uses animals to teach children about bullying, empathy, and caring.
That's a wonderful organization. I think that all of the animals invite us to empathize, because you imagine, what's it like to be you? And I talk about this actually in Soul of an Octopus quite a bit, because who doesn't want to imagine what it's like to be an octopus? What would it be like to taste with your skin? What would it be like to change color and shape and pour your body through a tiny opening? What would that be like? But what's it like to be you? Isn't that essentially the question we ask of everybody we love? You want to know, like, what is it like to be you? I love you. What's that like to be you? And by observing animals, by being among animals, we get to kind of explore senses we don't have. We get to touch that reality. Hearing above the threshold of human hearing is real, even though we don't experience it. So I think that every animal, from the little spider who can taste with its feet, and in fact, some spiders can, if they injure their leg, like a tarantula injures his leg, you know what they do? They pull their leg off, eat it, and grow a new one. How awesome. So every animal teaches us empathy as we're enticed to imagine what's it like to be you.
And that's everything from the chat room. So is there any other questions from anybody else that is wanting to ask something?
Oh, I'm just so grateful for everybody tonight. And Elise, thank you so much for doing all the tech support. As many of my friends know, particularly Marion, I am technologically like living in a cave with a rock and a stick. So I'm just so thrilled this worked tonight. I love that I got to see you all. I love that. This was just a blast. And some of you I haven't seen ever. Others I've just seen your name on the email. And other folks I haven't seen in months and months and months. So this has meant a great deal to me. And so please be in touch, folks. Oh, and I just saw a question. See the Gentle Barn. I have been on that website. It's addictive. I love it. They're wonderful people. Anyway, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And now I
Thank
have
you
to
very
let some
much.
chickens in down the street.
Thank you, Sy.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Oh,
Thank you
good
everybody
night.
for joining.
Carry your chicken.
Yeah.